Extraordinary scenes are not news for airports. You get to see everything there. People guffing around while waiting for their next flight, lovers hugging for hours, people crying, and military and soldiers passing by all day. Airport workers are used to that, but this one scene will be stuck in their mind forever. May 4th, 2018 may have started as an ordinary day, but it was far from such. Airline staff at a gate noticed a soldier in a combat uniform sitting and staring at his phone for a long time. Nothing was unusual with that scene until they heard him cry openly. Something was wrong, and his flight needed to take off, so they approached him. As soon as they approach the crying man, they hear someone yell, "Don't let him board the flight." Soon they discovered who was the person on the other line and why specie Brooks Lindsey was crying, and what was his story. Brooks Lindsey was born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. This was also where he met his wife, Haley Wilson, in 2015. It was love at first sight. Both found friends and love in each other, and soon became inseparable. Brooks had all life planned. He always knew what he wanted to be. He wasn't sure how Haley would react. Ever since he was a little boy, Brooks knew that he wanted to be a soldier. Moreover, he wanted to be a soldier for the U.S. Army. He just didn't know what Haley has to say about that. Surprisingly, yet luckily for Brooks, Haley was fine with his choice. Actually, she wanted to support him each step of the way. Brooks then had different challenges. To join the Army, one has to be a U.S. citizen, ages 17 to 34, to have a high school diploma, and pass both the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery test and Military Entrance Processing Station medical exam. Since he knew what he wanted, Brooks prepared for months and years to pass these exams. Luckily, he entered. Then he and Haley had their first mission together. Soon after Brooks joined the U.S. Army, he knew that he wanted to spend his life with Haley, so he decided to ask her to marry him. Haley said yes. They both realized that they are still pretty young, but they knew that they wanted to be together and to have a family of their own. Following his enlistment, Haley and Brooks married in 2017, becoming one family. This young couple couldn't wait to start a family together. Shortly after they exchanged their vows, they had big news to share with their family and friends. When they got married in November of 2017, they had no idea that Haley was actually pregnant. So when they discovered, they were both happy and surprised. Immediately, they shared the big news with their friends and family. It was clear to everyone that these two can't wait to hold their first child. Ever since they learned that they're about to become parents in 9 months, their life changed. They had appointments, baby classes, and much more. Very soon, they discovered the baby's gender. They had no preference when it came to having a baby boy or a baby girl. They just wanted to have a healthy baby. Still, they loved it when they learned about the baby's sex. The doctor gave the couple some amazing news. They would have a baby girl. They couldn't be more excited about welcoming a baby girl into this world. While they enjoyed their days together and preparation for the baby girl until news messed with their happiness. Brooks wanted to be with his wife every day and support her through the pregnancy. After all, he knew that if Army comes knocking, he needs to respond. And that's just what happened. Brooks was a part of the 2nd Battalion, 114th Field Artillery Regiment, so he had to go to Fort Bliss, Texas for training. Afterward, he would deploy to Kuwait for 9 months. Brooks hated saying goodbye to his wife, but he knew that he had no choice. However, he felt peaceful because Haley's pregnancy was progressing well enough. So knowing that he leaves everything safe and well at home, he started getting ready for his shipment. At the time, he didn't know if he would witness the birth of his daughter. When Brooks left for his training, Haley was 7 months pregnant. They headed toward the airport with sadness in their hearts, but they knew that the duty comes first. Since they had no idea when they were going to meet again, they agreed to name their baby girl. So now Haley was expecting Millie. Although they were separated and missing each other, they knew that they had things to focus on. Brooks had to stay alive, and Haley had to take care of her pregnancy. In the beginning, everything was fine with Haley's pregnancy. She had a little high blood pressure, but other than that, everything was going well. Soldiers have often put their families second, even when it comes to the birth of their children. Sadly, only a few soldiers can actually return for the birth of their children. Haley and Brooks knew that it was difficult to get Brooks home, but it wasn't impossible. After all, the Red Cross could help. As mentioned, only a few soldiers can actually return for the birth of their baby. In order for that to happen, the Red Cross has to sign off on the case and actually confirm that the soldier's leave is worth it. Brooks and Haley hoped that it was that easy. However, it wasn't. The only way for the Red Cross to support Brooks was if Haley was in distress. Haley's pregnancy was going as planned, so Brooks had no strong reason to return home and be there for the birth of his daughter. Needless to say, both Brooks and Haley were devastated. Although they were sad about the decision, both knew that they just have to wait until they meet. But then, everything changed one Thursday morning and went downhill. One Thursday morning, Haley went to a routine doctor's appointment. She believed that it will be like any other routine checkup, but shockingly, Haley's blood pressure had gone through the roof, and the doctor had some bad news for Haley. The doctor explained to Haley that high blood pressure can mean that Millie, the baby, was going through some troubles inside the womb. To learn how his baby doing, the doctor ordered extensive blood work on Haley to rule out any possible complications. In the meantime, he told the mother-to-be to go home and wait for the results. Haley didn't know if she should be happy this was a possibility for Brooks to come home, or devastated, although she didn't know how jeopardized the baby is. Then she receives an unexpected phone call. Haley went home and she couldn't calm her mind. Then the phone started to ring. She picked up and couldn't believe her ears. The doctor called Haley to inform her about the test results. He told her that she was preeclamptic, simply said the baby was stressing due to Haley's high blood pressure. Haley being preeclamptic actually meant that her high blood pressure made more damage than she believed. It affected her organs, including kidneys and liver, so they had to act as quickly as possible to protect Millie. Haley's condition got worse by the minute, and the doctor decided that it was time to take Haley to the hospital. The doctor and his team had to induce because the most important thing was to keep the baby and the mother safe. Before everything kicked off, Haley called Brooks. He was so excited. Now Brooks could gain emergency leave and see to his wife and welcome their baby girl. But before he could pack and go, the Red Cross needed to grant him emergency leave. As soon as Brooks heard about the situation from his wife, he told her to contact the Red Cross so they knew what was happening. He then contacted them. The Red Cross had to confirm Haley's condition to order Brooks' leave. Soon after, Brooks could go and meet his wife. He was happy and worried about his wife's condition. Finally, it was time for Brooks to return home. At the time, he had no idea how long he would actually travel, so he started by searching the soonest and shortest flight from El Paso to Jackson. In no short time, he could only find a flight with a layover in Dallas. What made things worse was the fact that flights for the day were so full, so he had to wait until the following morning at 10 a.m. So he did what he could at the time, stayed at the airport. Haley was devastated when she heard that Brooks won't make it home on time. Now she was both scared and alone. In the meantime, Brooks gave his best to come home on time. Brooks kept trying to find an early flight, but no luck. It seemed like Brooks will reach home after Millie's birth. That was better than not returning home at all, but it didn't make them happy. They had no idea that real roller coaster just started. The following morning, Brooks was trapped at the airport and Haley's water broke exactly at 7 a.m. Millie could appear at any moment. Brooks was still waiting for his flight. Finally, Brooks boarded at 10 a.m. and landed in Dallas around 2 p.m. The very first thing he did as soon as he landed was call Haley. At that moment, Haley was 5 centimeters dilated. Everything went downhill for Brooks from that moment. It seemed that he won't reach home on time. And on top of that, his next flight was delayed from 3:55 p.m. to 5:45. Back at the hospital, Haley entered the final stages of labor. Before she started giving birth, she decided that she wanted her stepmother and mother-in-law with her. At 5 p.m., it was time to go. Meanwhile, Brooks was thousands of miles away from his wife. He was heartbroken not to be able to witness the birth of his daughter, but no one knew that his mother, Teresa, had a secret plan. Once Haley's delivery begun, the doctor specifically told everyone present that recording is forbidden, but Teresa couldn't stand aside and let her son miss the birth of his daughter. So she decided to ignore the doctor's instruction and dial the number. Teresa shoved the phone in front of her shirt, but it didn't take long for the doctor to notice it and ask her what she was doing. Teresa had no choice but to show the phone's screen. There, he saw Brooks' face together with Haley. Luckily, Lindsey's doctor was familiar with the situation and understood how important it was for Brooks to be there. In any form, on the other hand, Brooks couldn't believe that his daughter was on the way. Brooks was supporting his wife every second until he saw airport staff member approach him and encouraged him to board the plane. Otherwise, he would miss the flight. That's when the doctor said, "Don't let him board." The baby was just one push away. But Brooks ignored him. He stayed glued to the phone. People around him realized what happened, and even they tried to delay the flight. In no time, Brooks had the crowd around him, and when Millie saw the light of day, he started crying. Thanks to the crew members who postponed the flight, Brooks was blessed to see his daughter being born. Brooks saw his baby girl because his flight was delayed. There are still good things in bad moments. In the end, Brooks still had a flight to hop on. He was on his way to meet his baby girl finally. When Brooks finally made it to the hospital, he was so excited and happy that both Haley and Millie were fine. Millie weighed 7 pounds and 6 ounces. She was 21 inches long. When Brooks picked up his baby girl, he held her for 5 minutes straight. He just couldn't let her go. He said that she was perfect. Tracy Dover filmed Brooks while he was at the airport, and that's how the video went viral. Once the girls were back home, Brooks learned how to change diapers and he enjoyed family time. Nowadays, he is back from the army and enjoys his time with his girls.